Well, what started as a movement against Confederate symbols now expanding to other historical figures, including former presidents like Jackson and Roosevelt.
And as calls for removal grow louder, our next guest vows to protect one of the most iconic monuments in the world, Mount Rushmore.
All right, joining us now is South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. Governor, we were thinking about you because it seems like all our monuments and tributes to the past are under a microscope. Are you concerned that you're going to be Mount Rushmore is going to be the subject of protest or defilement?
You know, it certainly could be, and we've seen some activity online where people have made threats to that. What my message is that this is no longer about equality. This is a radical rewriting of our history, and in South Dakota, we won't stand for it. This is a national monument. The more we focus on the flaws of these men that are on our mountain, the less likely we are to recognize the virtues and the lessons we can learn from their lives. So that really is the message that I have for South Dakotans that love this mountain and Mount Rushmore, for this country, that recognize what it represents to us, and we will do all that we can to make sure that that message is loud and clear, that we will make sure that Mount Rushmore stays as majestic as it is today.
How do you plan on stopping it if it does go that far?
You know, this is obviously a federal mountain. It is a national monument. It is something that we will partner with them and use the resources of the state to make sure that we have security measures in place. I won't get into specifics, but we do have actions together that we're working on. We have the president visiting on July 3rd, and we're excited about that, but we also know that this threat to the mountain could remain in place for quite some time, and we're prepared to be there and be diligent about protecting it.
Yeah, you know, Governor, there are a number of governors across the country who are not taking the bold stand you are about not on my watch. And we have heard that as well from Donald Trump. He's made it very clear. You break the law, you're going to get into trouble. Ultimately, as people look in, and as people feel frustrated, America's spiraling out of control and nobody's doing anything, although Donald Trump's trying to. Doesn't that ultimately politically fire up his base?
It does. I think it should fire up every single American that loves this country. This whole conversation has changed. It's gone away from equality, and it's a radical movement that's rewriting our history that will take away all the lessons that we want to teach our kids and our grandkids. George Washington was a unifier. He brought this country together to lead us at a time when we needed the birth of the nation to get started. We know we have Thomas Jefferson, who was an author of the Declaration of Independence that gave us the all men are created equal. Lincoln made it happen, brought it to reality. Roosevelt was the first man to dine with an African American at the White House. So these men have flaws. Obviously, every leader has flaws, but we're missing the opportunity we have in this discussion to talk about the virtues and what they brought to this country, and the fact that this is a foundation that we're built on and the heritage we should be carrying forward.
Governor, the way you've put this is as eloquent as anyone I've heard describe why it's important to have symbols of America, not because they were perfect, but because they made major impacts on the country that gets better and better every year. Some would look at this and say, if we're going to get better, we have to start pulling down the imperfect. And as you sit in South Dakota, and I've been to Mount Rushmore. We did a great feature. I was able to go behind Mount Rushmore, see this incredible design and see how it took place, the mistakes that were made along the way they had to adapt to the side of the mountain. How did we get to the point where we are the greatest critic of our own country? We have enough enemies outside our border. Now the enemies seem to be within our border.
You know, I think we just need to continue to push that the truth gets told. You know, this country isn't perfect. Nobody in this country is perfect. But we learn from our mistakes, and that's what history brings to us each and every day as an opportunity to do better. That's what these men represent to us, is they did amazing things for this country, and we can do even better if we work together and quit dividing and destroying, but instead build each other up, encourage each other, learn, and look to creating an America that really does exemplify what their dreams were. And that is what this whole conversation has completely shifted from. And that is one of the reasons that every day we need to continue to use these opportunities to educate folks on why this country is special and why it needs to be defended and why we need to protect these kind of monuments to make sure that story is told.
Yeah, the beauty of all of this, of the system our founders and framers began or started, is that we can correct wrongdoings, correct injustices, and become a better union. Thank you so much, Governor, for being with us. And there's a space behind their heads. Brian's been in it, right?